Hello and welcome to Falcon Weekly. I'm Mary Kate McCarrick.
And I'm Brianna Davis. Thanks so much for joining us. All eyes were on Selma, Alabama over the weekend as tens of thousands of people commemorated the 50th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday. On March 7, 1965, 600 civil rights marchers set out from Selma to walk to Montgomery.
But they only made it 6 blocks to the Edmund Pettus Bridge before they were attacked by local law enforcement. Today, marchers set out to follow in the footsteps of history. Reporter Ryan Nobles has a story from Selma.
Dozens of marchers began a 54-mile trek from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama this morning, retracing the steps taken by civil rights activists 50 years ago. On March 7, 1965, activists trying to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge were met with police wielding billy clubs and tear gas. Their aim was for equal voting rights for all Americans.
What we're going through today is absolutely nothing, and I understand we may get some rain, but it's absolutely nothing at all compared to what the people, endured 50 years ago.
Today's march was small in comparison to this weekend's activities in Selma and Montgomery, the two cities linked by an ugly but important chapter in American civil rights history, a chapter that led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act. President Obama and more than 100 Republican and Democrat lawmakers were there to commemorate the day. 50 years ago, Congressman John Lewis was beaten on that bridge.
We must use this moment to recommit ourselves to do all we can to finish the work. There's still work left to be done.
Mary Zachary worked in Alabama in the 1960s and literally got marching orders from Dr. King.
We were always informed when Dr. King was coming in to visit us and where he was living, and gave us instructions for the future and how to follow them, how to march, and how to try to stay safe.
In Selma, I'm Ryan Nobles reporting.
Another march from Selma to Montgomery is set for March 21st. That march will mark the day civil rights activists began the trip from Selma to Montgomery under federal protection.
Roughly 70,000 people came to Selma Sunday to walk the path of the Bloody Sunday March.
But State Senator Hank Sanders says the planned march across the bridge had to be called off because of the overwhelming number of people who showed up. Sanders told the Wall Street Journal that many people crowded onto the bridge to sightsee.
Meanwhile, in Montgomery, marchers joined together Sunday to lay a wreath at the Civil Rights Memorial in state capitol in honor of those who died 50 years ago. Governor Robert Bentley, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, U.S. Representative John Lewis of Georgia, many other members of Congress attending this year's wreath laying. Saturday, an estimated crowd of 40,000 people showed up to hear President Obama speak. Ryan Noble is in Selma with more of the president's appearance, an appearance that wouldn't have been imaginable 50 years ago.
They came in the thousands. People from all over Alabama and the entire country made a pilgrimage to Selma to honor the sacrifice of hundreds of protesters who were brutally attacked by state troopers in 1965, a day ultimately known as Bloody Sunday. Congressman John Lewis was among the leaders of the march.
And I want to thank each and every one of you who marched across the bridge on Bloody Sunday. You didn't have to do it, but you did it.
And in the ultimate sign that their efforts made a difference, it was the first African-American president who thanked the marchers for their contribution.
We gather here to honor the courage of ordinary Americans willing to endure billy clubs and the chastening rod, tear gas and the trampling hoof.
And while there was a lot of talk about the past and what happened on this bridge 50 years ago, President Obama made sure to emphasize that there is still a lot of work to be done.
All of us need to recognize, as they did, that change depends on our actions, on our attitudes, the things we teach our children,
And President Obama's comments were echoed by those civil rights leaders still working to make a difference, like Martin Luther King III.
We are no longer doing voter education. I think voter education with voter registration ultimately creates voter participation.
A black president speaking freely and marching across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, a dream many thought impossible, especially those who were in this very same spot 50 years ago under much different circumstances.
The event Saturday in Selma played out for millions of TV viewers around the world.
But some of the people who went to hear the president in person say they would have been better off to stay home. Reporter Alan Henry explains why.
Tens of thousands of people gathered in Selma to take in its history and witness more in the making.
Well, I have a 12-year-old son, and we really thought it was important, my husband and I thought it was important that he be a part of this so he can understand his responsibility in voting and what people went through for him to have that right.
But there were some issues that kept everything from going smoothly. A majority of the crowd couldn't hear or see the president speak, despite the fork-lifted speakers. That led to many heading for the exit just minutes into his speech, despite waiting hours in line to get in.
We missed the entire speech, so we're going to have to watch it on TV later tonight.
The crowds also proved problematic for EMTs trying to respond to several young and elderly people passing out in the streets. Medics I spoke to off camera said it could have been the sunlight, hours of standing, packed crowds, heavy smoke from food vendors, or a mixture of all of that that led to fainting.
People are everywhere. There's no structure, really, other than they have the streets blocked off. But I think it could have been a little bit more organized or planned a little bit better.
That was Alan Henry reporting. Shadows of pre-civil rights racism are still being cast in Selma. For the past 2 weeks, members of the KKK have been active in Selma, throwing rocks with propaganda flyers onto random doorsteps. The hate group claims that they are trying to remind people that they still exist and are watching current events.
For more on the events in Selma this weekend, check out the hashtag Selma50 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Coming up, one Oklahoma frat was shut down for racist chants. See what the university is doing in response.
And Apple's latest conference reveals new products and details on some already announced ones. See what gadgets they have coming up.
And Time has released a list of most influential people on the web. See what surprising people made it. Those stories and more when Falcon Weekly returns.
Welcome back to Falcon Weekly. The University of Oklahoma is severing its ties with this chapter of a national fraternity that is provoking outrage.
A viral video shows members of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity singing a racist chant. Reporter Polo Sandoval has the latest on the situation.
A few seconds of offensive footage are causing shockwaves. The video was shot Saturday showing party-bound members of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity in black tie singing a racist chant. The chapter belonged to the University of Oklahoma until these images surfaced. The National SAE chapter sharply condemned the actions of their members, threatening to suspend those responsible for life. University President David Boren took it a step further. He calls the students behind the chant a disgrace and permanently severed ties with the fraternity.
This is not our way. These are not our values.
He's giving SAE members until midnight Tuesday to vacate their frat house.
And as they pack their bags, I hope they think long and hard about what they've done.
The OU community is coming together in a series of peaceful demonstrations. Some believe incidents like this are not uncommon among younger generations.
Within the black community, we were upset, we were angry, but we were not shocked because these are things that happen every day that it took this group of students to be on camera and caught for it to get national attention.
The footage surfaced a day after the president joined hands with civil rights leaders. They honored the 50-year anniversary of the Selma, Alabama march. Their message, what this video suggests, the march is not yet finished. I'm Polo Sandoval reporting.
Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, Protests are underway after a white police officer shot and killed an unarmed biracial teenager. Reporter Andrew Spencer has the latest.
The first protest started the night of the shooting.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter! I'm hurt, I'm frustrated, I'm angry.
A march outside the Wisconsin state capitol followed. A police officer had shot and killed 19-year-old Tony Robinson. Robinson was not armed. His death sent shockwaves through the community.
Look at the pain on these young people's eyes. They keep losing friends.
He shot a child dead! And the reason this community won't blink is because he looks the way he does.
Robinson's mother says he was a father figure to his younger siblings.
My son has never been a violent person. Never. And to die in such a violent way it baffles me.
25, start ambulance. At least one.
In recordings of dispatch the day of the shooting, obtained by CNN affiliate WKOW, the dispatcher describes allegations of Robinson yelling, jumping in and out of traffic, and hitting one of his friends.
Got another call for the same suspect. Went inside the Liston Street, tried to strangle another patron.
Police say Officer Matt Kenny, a 12-year veteran of the department, responded to an apartment in Madison where he could hear a commotion. The officer forced his way inside, and police say Robinson assaulted Kenny, who then drew his gun and fatally shot him.
He was unarmed, and that's going to make this all the more complicated for the investigators, for the public, to accept, to understand that deadly force had to be used.
Under Wisconsin law, an outside agency investigates officer-involved shootings. That investigation is underway. I'm Andrew Spencer reporting.
Public records show that Robinson had a criminal history. Court documents reveal Robinson pleaded guilty in December to an armed robbery that happened earlier in 2014.
In the wake of revelations that Hillary Clinton used a private email address during her time as Secretary of State, the potential presidential candidate has not publicly addressed the controversy, but her daughter Chelsea addressed the scandal over the weekend.
Well, you'll have to ask her about that. As her daughter, we email about things like Thanksgiving dinner and our plans to watch a movie on Friday night. So in terms of her official emails, you'll have to ask her.
Sources say that Hillary Clinton may address the scandal later this week, and leaders in the Democratic Party say if Clinton does not address the email scandal, it could hurt a potential run for the White House in 2016.
Turning now to news from around the world. Iraqi forces continue one of the largest offensives to retake an ISIS stronghold.
Iraqi troops, along with militia forces, say they are inching closer to driving the terror group out of Tikrit. And the U.S. is keeping a close eye on developments. The chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, Martin Dempsey, is in Baghdad to meet with the high-ranking Iraqi officials. 2 American tourists are in trouble after they carved their initials into a wall of the Roman Colosseum. An Italian newspaper reports other tourists caught the Americans carving the letters with a coin. The unidentified women, both from California, snapped a selfie of themselves with initials before being arrested. The newspaper says the 2 may be fined for damaging a building of historic and artistic interest. 5 foreign tourists were caught carving graffiti on Colosseum walls last year. One of them was ordered to pay more than $21,000 in fines.
It's a big day for tech news with the big unveiling of the Apple Watch. Falcon Weekly's Connor Busey joins us now for a look at this week's tech update. Connor?
Thanks, Mary-Kate. Since its announcement at last September's keynote, the Apple Watch has been a subject of speculation by fans and critics alike. Today at the Yerba Buena Center in San Francisco, CEO Tim Cook took the stage at this year's first Apple Media event. While the Apple Watch was the expected star of the show, Apple also surprised fans with a new addition to its MacBook line. Simply called MacBook, Apple's newest addition to its laptop line was a less expected announcement at today's event. The new MacBook is the thinnest laptop Apple has ever created at 13.1 millimeters, 24% thinner than the MacBook Air. To shed so much thickness, the MacBook nixes output ports in favor of one USB Type-C port for both power and devices. It also features Apple's high-resolution Retina display and packs 10 hours of battery life into its slim frame. The MacBook starts at $1299 and comes in silver, space gray, and gold. The Apple Watch is the latest attempt at finally getting the smartwatch right. The watch features customizable faces, widgets for keeping an eye on reminders and alarms, and a new digital touch feature that will allow users to draw on the face of the watch and send the doodle to friends. As with other smartwatches on the market, the Apple Watch will keep track of health information and provide reports for the wearer's activity at the end of each week. The Apple Watch comes in 3 categories: Sport, starting at $349, Regular, starting at $549, and the Premium Apple Watch Edition, starting at a whopping $10,000. The Apple Watch will be up for pre-order April 10th and will officially go on sale April 24th. Meanwhile, shipping of the new MacBook starts April 10th. Reporting for Falcon Weekly, I'm Connor Busey. Back to you, Mary Kate.
Thanks, Connor. President Obama is continuing his push to protect and increase well-paying middle-class jobs.
Today, he announced a new program intended to help more Americans get trained for jobs in the technology industry.
Today, I'm announcing a new initiative that we're calling Tech Hire. Tech Hire. So what Tech Hire is going to do is to help local leaders connect the job openings to the training programs to the jobs.
The program will take $100 million in federal money available to train workers for tech jobs and connect them with employment opportunities.
Turning to health news, new research has linked long hours spent sitting to heart disease. The study found that sitting for many hours increases coronary artery calcification, which increases our chance to get a heart attack. Researchers encourage that if you sit for extended periods, be sure to stand up and walk from time to time. The study suggests take a walk for lunch and use stairs instead of elevators. It also suggests that you get up and move around while talking on the telephone. It's that time of year again. Spring is on its way, and with warmer temperatures comes springtime allergies.
Reporter Holly Furfer has some tips for those who suffer from allergies in today's Health Minute.
While you may be enjoying the beautiful spring view, millions of Americans are in misery with watery, itchy eyes, runny noses, and sneezing. Yep, it's spring allergy season.
The most common allergen in the spring, first we see tree pollen, and then following the tree pollen, we see grass pollen. So that's usually the way the progression is.
Although it's near impossible to avoid all pollen, there are some things you can do to limit your exposure. Keep the doors and windows in your home and car shut to keep the pollen out. Take a shower and wash your hair after outdoor activities so you don't bring the pollen inside with you. Wipe off pets when they come indoors, and don't let them sleep in your bed with you and transfer any pollen. And if you know you suffer from spring allergies, start taking medications before your symptoms begin.
So if the tissues swell, and that's one of the symptoms that we see with an allergic response. So when the tissues swell, it could block the sinus passages, and the sinus passages need to stay open so that the mucus can drain.
Holly Furfer, CNN, Atlanta.
The official start of spring is March 20th.
A New Mexico company is receiving a lot of attention for taking a stance on the issue of children being vaccinated. Carson and Karen Bennett created shirts for their company, Tiny Torsos, that read, "Fully vaccinated, you're welcome." Initially, the couple sold 4 or 5 shirts until the outbreak of measles in Disneyland made the news. The company has since then sold more than 200 shirts. The shirts were originally for kids, but the Bennetts have had requests for adult shirts too. For each shirt sold, $1 is donated to nonprofit raising awareness on the importance of getting children completely vaccinated. After a few interesting weeks of roller coaster temperatures, now we're in for a lot of rain.
Falcon Weekly's Umar Nadir joins us from outside the MassCom building for a look at the forecast. Umar?
Thank you. And now for a look at this week's weather. While temperatures are rising in the local area, we're expecting rain throughout the week. Today we had a few drizzles here and there, Our high for today was 60 degrees. Heading into the evening, our low is going to be 58 degrees. Looking forward to Tuesday, you can expect scattered showers all throughout the day with a high of 74 degrees and a low of 61 degrees. You'll want to exercise caution while driving. On Wednesday, it's going to be more of the same thing. We'll have a high of 74 degrees, scattered showers throughout the day, and heading into the evening, we'll have a low of 61 degrees. On Thursday, we'll have a little bit of extreme weather. We're expecting thunderstorms throughout the day, but it'll be mostly scattered showers. We'll have a high of 74 degrees on Thursday with a low of 60 degrees. On Friday, the temperature will drop a little bit with our high being 68 degrees and our low being 56 degrees, but once again, we'll have scattered showers on Friday. For Saturday, it's going to be mostly cloudy. It'll still be wet out, but just mostly cloudy. We'll have a high of 71 degrees and we'll have a low of 54 degrees in the evening. Heading into Sunday, it's going to be slightly cloudy, but we'll have a little bit of rain here and there. We'll have a high of 71 degrees and we'll have a low of 45 degrees. That's been a look at this week's weather. Back to you in the studio.
In entertainment news, Cate Blanchett has a new addition to her family, and Uncle Jesse from Full House returns home. Jeremy Roth has those stories in today's Hollywood Minute.
Cate Blanchett might be playing a cruel stepmother in Disney's Cinderella.
You shall not go to the ball.
But in real life, the actress is overjoyed to be welcoming a new daughter. People reports Blanchett and husband Andrew Upton recently adopted a girl. Edith Upton is the first daughter for the couple. The pair already have 3 sons. John Stamos returned to the house that helped make him famous and managed to remain unnoticed. The Full House actor posted a picture of himself standing outside the show's now iconic San Francisco home. As you can see, fans taking pictures of the house have no idea Uncle Jesse is standing right behind them. Chappie is #1 at the box office. The story of a robot that can think and feel made an estimated $13 million in its opening weekend. Con artist flick Focus fell to #2 in its second week, making more than $10 million. British sequel The Second Best Marigold Hotel came in third with a little over $8 million. For Hollywood Minute, I'm Jeremy Roth.
President Obama and Kim Kardashian aren't typically used in the same sentence.
But Time magazine has put them on the list for the 30 most influential people on the web. The Time determined this list by analyzing social media, site traffic, and overall ability to drive news. Among the top spots were PewDiePie, who has the most subscribed YouTube channel, Taylor Swift, and The Jester. Others who have made the list include Justin Bieber, Gwyneth Paltrow, Jimmy Fallon, and even the Prime Minister of India.
Remember, there's more news online 24/7. Just search for Falcon Weekly on Facebook and Twitter to see more stories and news updates throughout the week.
I'm Hannah Bell with a look at this week's sports. The Montevallo men's basketball team received its 6th consecutive bid to the NCAA tournament Sunday night. The Falcons defeated Columbus State, winning the Peach Belt Conference Tournament championship. was behind by 21 points at the half. But the second half, the Falcons swooped in and defeated the Cougars with a score of 80-76 after sending the game into overtime. Montevallo will play its first game at the NCAA tournament against Carson Newman on March 14th on the Lincoln Memorial Campus in Tennessee. Members of the men's basketball team also received some exciting titles Friday night at the Peach Belt Conference Awards banquet. Coach Danny Young was named PBC Coach of the Year after leading the Falcons to a 17-2 conference record. Senior player Teran Brown earned the title of PBC Player of the Year and First Team All-PBC. Senior Larry Slaughter was named Second Team All-PBC. Congratulations to the men's basketball team on a great season. From the women's golf team, sophomore Erin Eddy was named last week's Peach Belt Conference Player of the Week after taking medalist honors in the Peggy Kirk Bell Invitational. Eddy scored a 69, the lowest score in the round, and the second lowest in the tournament. She is currently ranked third in the PBC. The baseball team lost to Francis Marion University with a final score of 15-6 on Sunday. The baseball team will play at UAH on March 11th. They will play at home. Meanwhile, the softball team fell behind in both games of its doubleheader against USC Aiken. The first game ended with a score of 2-0 and the second with a score of 4-3. The softball team will play a doubleheader at Georgia Southwestern on March 13th. And finally in sports, the women's tennis team lost to Armstrong State on Sunday with a score of 9-0. Armstrong State is ranked number 1 in the PBC. The women's tennis team will play Stillman on March 12th. And that's a look at this week's sports. Back to you.
Thanks, Hannah. Finally this week, 2,500 people made a mad dash down the streets of Anchorage, Alaska to outrun 22 reindeer.
The annual Running of the Reindeer is a part of the Fur Rendezvous Winter Festival. The run is similar to Spain's Running of the Bulls, except the risk of seriously getting hurt is lower. This is the 8th year for the run, and the money raised is used for Toys for Tots. That's all the time we have for this week's show. Thank you so much for joining us.
For more UM news from MassComm student reporters, be sure to check out the Falcon News Network blog. This web address is on your screen. We'll see you again next week.